You're watching Eye on Africa on France 24. I'm Alexander Rocotte. These are the headlines this hour. Picking up the pieces in Cape Verde, we see how residents are rebuilding their lives after a deadly tropical storm battered the archipelago earlier this month. France 24's team in South Africa reports on the efforts to improve water filtration systems with antiretroviral HIV drugs and other chemicals contaminating multiple sources. And African representatives sign up to the Yokohama Declaration, where Japan is pledging to help the growth and development of the continent. This coming as Japanese culture is having a big impact on Benin, currently hosting a major manga convention. I begin in the Atlantic islands of Cape Verde off the West African coast, where recovery efforts are ongoing after Tropical Storm Erin brought torrential downpours. At least 9 people were killed, hundreds more displaced, when the rainfall turned streets into raging rivers, triggering landslides and destroying much vital infrastructure. Now, hundreds of families are now wondering how they'll get by after losing their homes and livelihoods. Emily Boyle reports.
In only a few hours, the island of São Vicente received a year's worth of rain. In the middle of the night, mud and water ripped through almost all the houses in this neighborhood.
This is a serious situation. At 10 p.m. we started to feel the rain, but it was still calm. After 11 p.m. it became stronger. We tried to remove the water, but we couldn't.
9 people were killed by Storm Erin, and 1,500 people have been displaced across Cape Verde. A week on from the storms, local residents are still extremely vulnerable. Most of their belongings were swept away by the floods, and their mud-filled homes are almost inhabitable. Recovery operations are still underway, but many roads are still unusable.
We couldn't save our belongings, but we managed to save our lives. Now we'll see what to do with our lives. I hope our lives improve, especially mine and my children's, because we are disoriented, without living conditions, without anything.
The flood came 8 months after the World Bank published a report warning of Cape Verde's growing climate risks. The report highlighted the archipelago's increasing vulnerability to floods, droughts, and rising sea levels. As Cape Verde focuses on recovery, it also has to prepare for the future as tropical storms increase in both frequency and strength.
Moving on now, Uganda has agreed to take in deported migrants from the United States as long as they have no criminal record and are not unaccompanied minors. The Foreign Ministry in Kampala said it preferred to take in Africans, but did not rule out receiving people from elsewhere. It also gave no indication of what it's receiving in return. Such schemes are being trialled by several Western governments, but have received heavy criticism. Nicholas Opio is a human rights lawyer.
They're trying to position themselves to go back in the good graces of the US, following adverse actions by past US administration towards Uganda as a country and Ugandan officials in particular. So this is really politics at play. Unfortunately, it has human lives involved in it, and I think that it is really sad that we are sacrificing human beings on the altar of political convenience by states.
Well, for the past 2 years, Sudan has been engulfed in a brutal conflict. 2 rival military generals, once allies, now bitter enemies, have plunged the country into chaos. The war has forced over 4 million people to flee their homes, with at least 850,000 of them seeking refuge in neighbouring Chad. Among the most vulnerable are those who've suffered life-altering injuries, gunshot wounds to their limbs that have left them permanently disabled. Harold Girard reports.
Fighters from the Rapid Support Forces attacked the army in our neighborhood. The soldiers retreated and then the rebels took control of the area. That's when I was shot in the leg. People rushed me to the hospital, but the wound became infected, and the main vein could no longer circulate blood. The doctors told me that the leg was already dead. They had no choice but to amputate it.
Ahmed is one of more than 850,000 Sudanese who have fled to neighboring Chad since war erupted in April 2023. For the past year, he's been supported by Handicap International at the Abu Tenge refugee camp, where he is undergoing a rehabilitation program. The goal, to restore his mobility through physical therapy and assistive devices, including a prosthetic leg.
When a patient arrives in despair and after a few sessions returns with a smile, walking again, it's such a relief. Sometimes they come in with 2 crutches, and after a few months, they only need 1. That kind of progress always lifts my spirits.
Back at Ahmad's shelter, we witnessed the transformation. After months of rehabilitation, he can once again tend to his garden.
Before, I couldn't even carry a container of water. Now I can even bathe myself. I couldn't lift a small bag before, but now I can carry groceries from the market back home.
In June, the United Nations Human Rights Council condemned the widespread use of heavy weaponry in densely populated areas of Sudan, one of the leading causes of the growing number of civilians left with permanent injuries.
Now, South Africa hosts the African Union AIP Water Summit. A study has found traces of antiretroviral drugs to treat HIV in the country's rivers and tap water, a sign that the local authorities' inability to keep water sources clean. The government has had to call on private companies now to build proper filtration systems as aging infrastructure and outdated facilities fail to keep pharmaceuticals out of the water supply. This report by Tom Canetti, Graham Walsh and Caroline DeMay.
There is no running water in Nana's Farm, an informal settlement in the south of Johannesburg. The only source is a hole in the ground connected to a contaminated river. These women and children are among the 3 million South Africans without access to safe drinking water.
They get sick. We have small babies, lot of disease in here. And even in summer, we have a lot of mosquito, diarrhea, yeah. Even me, I have flu for 4 months. I think it's this water.
But contaminated water is not just a problem in informal settlements. Several major rivers in Gauteng province are unsafe. A Northwest University study found antiretroviral drugs used to treat HIV in rivers, with small amounts found in tap water. While the traces of ARVs are small, long-term effects are unknown.
Our study highlighted the ARVs in the water, but this is just the tip of the iceberg, since there are many other chemicals present at low levels in the environment, and all of these could together have unintentional effects, such as disrupting the hormone system.
Most South Africans do have running taps, but 1 in 3 deliver contaminated water. The government has had to call on the private sector to help provide proper filtration infrastructure.
These are some of the manifolds and the headers which are associated to an installation which is up and coming.
New Water builds mobile ultrafiltration systems that remove unwanted chemicals from water.
South African municipal authorities have got particular challenges in their water, not only due to ageing infrastructure, but also because of the antiquated equipment which is both overutilised and also underperformed.
Almost 90% of South Africa's wastewater treatment plants fail to meet minimum standards, pouring polluted sewage into rivers and dams.
Now I'm going to take a brief look at some of the other stories making headlines in the African continent. A military prosecutor has demanded the death penalty for the DR Congo former president Joseph Kabila. The leader from 2001 through to 2019 has been out of the country for 2 years and was tried in absentia last month. He's accused of backing the Rwanda-linked M23 rebel group in eastern DRC. His charges include war crimes, treason and organising an insurrection. Nigeria has deported more than 100 foreigners allegedly involved in cybercrime syndicates, mostly posing as young women to blackmail their victims. Some 50 Chinese nationals were caught in the sting operation. Beijing has responded, saying it always requires its citizens overseas to strictly abide by local laws and that it supports local lawful crackdowns. And Japan has pledged to help Africa grow, develop and prosper following a 3-day summit attended by 49 nations from the continent. The Yokohama Declaration, adopted by all participants, includes calls for strengthening agricultural systems to ensure stable food supplies, as well as the safe and reliable development of artificial intelligence. And while Japan and Africa are meeting in Yokohama to cooperate, we head next to Cotonou to meet with the young Beninese who create exciting worlds inspired by manga and Japanese pop culture. The sub-Saharan chill festivity perfectly captures this spirit, a space where Japan meets Benin, where cosplay costumes are made with traditional African fabrics, and where Shinto deities cross paths with those of Wudon religion. Our team has sent this report.
Welcome to the Subarachil Convention, where Benin's otakus, the biggest manga and anime fans, come together. Here, beloved heroes like Naruto, Goku, Vegeta, and Sasuke come alive to parade on the streets of Cotonou. It feels like Tokyo landed right in West Africa.
Anime and manga were a big part of our childhood. We really connected with everything we watched when we were young, and it gave us a lot of courage and strength, not just to work hard in school, but to fully commit to everything we did.
I am Akpa Oshino, a character from the anime Oshinoko.
Fans gather to prove that otaku culture is more than just a hobby. It's a collective superpower. The festival is celebrated with cosplay contests, video game tournaments, manga workshops, calligraphy sessions, merchandise stalls, and even a manga-themed tea break. Because even heroes need to recharge.
I've never done this before. It is my first time doing calligraphy.
I really like how anime portrays Japanese culture. I also appreciate the sense of honor in those shows. I'm totally hooked on the otaku culture.
Even the Japanese are amazed by the way Benin brought their iconic characters to life.
Finding otaku culture here, I have to say, I'm surprised.
Behind the colorful wigs and costumes, there's real talent. Take Melon, for example, who tells the story of King Tofa of Dahomey fighting the god of thunder. Here, African legends and superheroes stand alongside Naruto and Goku.
When I was 6, I loved drawing and everything, but what really motivated me to keep going in this field was the series Dragon Ball.
This cultural blend goes beyond cosplay and stories. Local designers use African fabrics to make manga-inspired fashion, and artists add traditional music and dance to otaku themes. Fans of Japanese culture in Benin are closing the gap between the two countries, creating a vibrant, border-free community.
And with the quarterfinals of the Africa Nations Championship in Kenya, the hosts have been booted out of the competition following a 1-1 draw to Madagascar, ultimately losing on penalties, while this evening the favourites Morocco defeated Tanzania 1-0 to book their place in the semi-final. Stay tuned, there's more world news to come on France 24.
It would not be France without a summer break. Now, before we dive into a new season, here's just a sample of what 2025 has served up so far.
Gaza can and should be the jewel of the Palestinian people.
Ukraine is expendable in the eyes of the United States.
Question today is how do we live together in a warm planet and an aging population?
Has seen America change forever, Andrew Weissman?
Yeah, I think it has. I mean, I don't think you can put the genie back in the bottle.
What we are really seeing, actually, is the victory of Chinese policy.
Did the French state cover up for Nestle? It appears to be so, yeah.
We have a new pope.
Russia,
Greenland,
US,
Syria,
France,
Ukraine,
Germany,
Iran, Israel, Palestine,
Korea, Poland,
India, Vietnam,
Canada.
New shows start August 25th here on France 24.